And the rumors are true. Matt Riddle is on his way to the Smackdown roster. They had a taped segment with Kurt Angle, who was already at the PC, as the special referee the other night for the Fight Pit match between Riddle and Timothy Thatcher that I loved, and I'm going to be talking about that in a little bit. But they had this taped segment backstage with Kurt Angle reading off cue cards. I love Kurt. Kurt always has that far out look in his eyes. I look at Kurt's eyes when I see him, and his eyes were darting back and forth here. But he was hyping up Matt Riddle. He was talking about all the legends that, he's worked with and he's known in the business. And this guy he's got the potential to be one of those names. He's a big star, big recruit here for the SmackDown brand. They used Kurt Angle to introduce Matt Riddle, to give him a little bit of rub with the mainstream audience here on Fox, calling him the future. Now, Riddle wasn't there, but this did lead to a video package hyping him up. He had a line in there about his last name being Riddle because he's hard to figure out. It's only a matter of time before Vince McMahon puts him in a question mark outfit and boots. The first time he rolls his ankle or something, like Rusev, they're going to put boots on this guy's feet. But the Fight Pit match that he had on Wednesday with Timothy Thatcher was his final NXT match. It was his swan song with NXT. And if you look at what Riddle's been doing of late, he was doing the tag team thing. I enjoyed the Broserweights. I thought he and Pete Dunne, they had that odd couple dynamic. But the reality is, Pete Dunne and Matt Riddle, they're singles wrestlers. This was not meant to be a long-term thing. It should not have been a long-term thing. It was only a matter of time before one guy, probably Pete, turned on the other. Turned on Riddle, got tired of his shit, just the way Timothy Thatcher did. He got tired. The only difference is Pete Dunne was a lot more patient with Matt Riddle. But we all know where that was leading to, right? Timothy Thatcher, he tolerated it for about 2 weeks. And then he was done with the clown show. He had had enough of Matt Riddle and game shows and all the bullshit they had him doing. So he turned on him, and then they wound up in this fight pit. But really, the pandemic is what killed the Broserweights, because Pete Dunne has not been on television in many weeks. He's, I guess, still stuck over in the UK. So they couldn't even drop the titles together. They had to put, Thatcher in there. But Riddle is a singles guy. Riddle can be a big single star for this company. And I'm glad of the two brands, if you were going to call them up, and I do have my reservations for obvious reasons. Apparently they have high hopes for Riddle, but I've heard this before. They have high hopes for somebody until they get bored with them. Of the two, Raw and SmackDown, I'm glad he landed on SmackDown. I think it's the better place for him to be. I think it's the better roster for him to be part of. He could be money if booked properly. He could be a money player for them on top. I truly believe that. And the talent that he has to work with, look at the possible opponents. I mean, you've got a roster that includes AJ Styles, Daniel Bryan, Cesaro, Sheamus, Chad Gable is back on TV. Lots of good potential matchups for him on the blue brand. Which probably means get ready for the King Corbin feud. So that Fight Pit match. I loved the Fight Pit match between Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher from NXT this week. This was the best thing on either of the Wednesday shows this week, either AEW or NXT. Easily the best thing on either show. I loved that Fight Pit structure. There were no ropes. They had a cage around the ring with a platform on top. I'd say about, maybe 7 or 8 feet up. That created something of a scaffold around the ring. Not sure a match like this would work in a regular arena, or even at Full Sail with fans, just because it would seem the scaffold portion of it would obstruct people's views of the action inside the cage, although obstructed views never stopped them from using giant columns at WrestleMania, so maybe it wouldn't stop them from using this either. I hope they bring it back. I think it's badass. Shades of the old Lion's Den structure for some of those Ken Shamrock matches. But better. I like this better than the Lion's Den structure. Gives them more room to maneuver. I like having that platform up there they can do, they could jump off it and stuff. Little trivia note, Vince McMahon once defeated Ken Shamrock in one of those Lions Den matches. It was the same night that he revealed himself as the higher power on Monday Night Raw. I don't know how many people would remember that Vince McMahon was in a Lions Den match. Like I know Owen Hart was in a Lions Den match. I think Steve Blackman might have been in one as well. I don't know that too many people would know that Vince McMahon not only was in one, but he won one over Ken Shamrock. You can thank Jeff Jarrett for the assist. So they brought back the recently the recently released. My God, what's that? Recently deceased? God forbid, the recently released Kurt Angle. He is alive and well. Kurt Angle, they brought him back to officiate. He was very clearly being coached and guided by the other referees who were out there. You could only win by knockout or tap out. Those are the rules going into this match. Both men started on top of the scaffold on opposite sides with Angle down below. And immediately Riddle leaped off the platform. He rolled right into a series of strikes and we were off to the races. They brawled back up onto the scaffold later on. We had Riddle hitting a floating bro off the platform down onto Thatcher in the ring down below. Thatcher won when he got Riddle in a sleeper hold and put him out. And I loved Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle's an old school guy. He did the old raise the arm 3 times deal before calling the match off, which they don't do anymore because they want to treat these things like more of a fight, like an MMA fight. So like if you see that a guy is unconscious, and look, if we're being realistic here, if somebody is being choked unconscious, right, it is kind of silly to pick the arm up once, it drops, pick the arm up twice. Like, the guy is out. You know what I mean? Like, you got to call it off. So I get why they do that, but that's a very old school thing I have not seen them do in many years. So Kurt lifted the arm 3 times. 3 times the arm fell. He called the match off. This was a win in every way. They've created a cool new match concept that they could go back to in the future. The cage looked cool. The match I thought was very good. Thatcher gets a clean win. Riddle rides off to the main roster. Very few people get to win on their way out. They operate like the old territory days. If somebody is leaving the territory, they do the job on the way out. Unless you have an undefeated streak like Asuka. I mean, even Shayna Baszler, she dropped the championship to Rhea Ripley. All right, you do the job on the way out and you move on. I have no problem with it. Thatcher is the one who needed that win more. He needs the help, not Riddle. Although Riddle may need help now that Vince McMahon's got him. Vince McMahon and Bruce Pritchard have gotten their hands on Matt Riddle. Good luck, bro.